each year brings with it hundreds of billions of dollars worth of military spending around the globe. And when it comes to some of the most phenomenal weapons ever developed, from bullets so vicious they are a war crime, to a gun capable of firing over 1.5 million rounds a minute, and even a plan by the US to drop enormous hunks of metal on their enemies from space. Hold on tight, subscribe to the channel, and let's take a closer look at the 10 most insane weapons in the world. Number 10. AA12. The AA12 Auto Assault Shotgun happens to be one of the rarest and most sought-after shotguns in the world. And it's no surprise. The AA12 was developed in the early 1970s by a man named Maxwell Atchison, who worked for a company called Military Armaments Corporation at the time. Jerry Babber of Military Police Services saw the amazing potential of this weapon and bought the production rights from him in 1987. He would later release an improved version of the weapon in 2004, which had seen no fewer than 200 changes from Maxwell's blueprints. The AA12 is a gas-operated, fully automatic API blowback shotgun chambered for 2 3/4 inch 12-gauge shells. It can be loaded with virtually any type of shotgun shells, including explosive Frag 12 grenade rounds. It can carry a magazine with up to 32 rounds and fires 300 rounds per minute, and has no semi-automatic setting. And if you think that was impressive, just wait, because today's number 1 entry is so simple and yet so destructive that you won't believe your eyes. Number 9. Expanding bullet. In all the blood and brutality of war, it can sometimes be hard to remember that there are in fact rules. For instance, during World War I, German media accused the French of using something called a dum-dum, or an expanding bullet. As it turns out, they were right. The British immediately stopped manufacturing the ammo. Exploding bullets are so heinous that they were officially outlawed in 1907 for their notorious reputation to causing horrific wounds and unnecessary suffering. In other words, even during times of war, officials deemed that the dum-dum was just too much. It was the Indian Army who first developed these hollow nose expanding bullet in Dum Dum, a municipality near Calcutta, and the namesake of this deadly projectile. In the early 1900s, the hollow-tipped Dum Dum was abandoned in favor of the pointed Dum Dum. The problem being that upon entering the human body, they would tumble about, causing far more damage than the original Dum Dums. Ironically, while Dum Dums are illegal now, hollow points with many of the same problems are now the preferred choice for most police forces across the USA. Before we go on, like this video, pop the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell right now, or the ghost in your closet will manifest itself tonight. Number 8. Nerve Agent VX. VX stands for Venomous Agent X, and was one of the main targets of the Chemical Weapons Convention of 1987. Ever since then, stockpiles of it have been found routinely and destroyed. It is officially classified by the United Nations as a weapon of mass destruction, and deemed by the CDC to be the most potent nerve agent ever developed. When exposed to Nerve Agent VX, victims experience a complete loss of nervous system function, and the victim suffocates, unable to use their lungs to pull in oxygen. Just 25 to 30 milligrams is a fatal dose, and it is incredibly fast-acting. If a victim comes in direct contact with the substance, less than 10 milligrams can prove fatal. Number 7. Hydrogen bombs. The hydrogen bomb is even more powerful than the atomic bombs. For some perspective, the bombs that fell in Japan in World War II detonated with a yield of 15 and 20 kilotons of TNT. When the US tested its first hydrogen bomb in 1952, it detonated with a force of 10,000 kilotons. And another test in 1954 detonated with a force of 15 megatons, over 2.5 times more powerful than the intended 6.2 megatons it was developed for. They realized this was the result of an unintended secondary chemical reaction that occurred during detonation. Because the force was so much greater than intended, none of the safety precautions had been enough. Officials monitoring the explosion could see their bones through the skin during the blast, and the blinding light took every crack and seam in otherwise sealed safety quarters. 30 miles away, sailors on a Navy vessel said that the heat was akin to having a blowtorch put on their bodies. Only after the light came a 4-mile fireball that burned hotter than the surface of the sun. The explosion also did irreversible damage to the environment and residents of a nearby island nation who had been pushed south out of previously fertile farmland in order to make way for the tests. Number 6. Metal Storm. The Metal Storm is a US-funded, Australian-manufactured weapon that begs the question, just because you can make something, should you? The Metal Storm is a 36-barrel firearm capable of firing 1.62 million rounds per minute, or 180 rounds in a 0.01 second burst. At peak capacity, it produces a wall of 24,000 9mm round, traveling at Mach 5. In order to accomplish this, the Metal Storm ammunition cartridge has no shell casing and no primer. The weapon itself has no hammer, trigger, or breech block. In fact, the only moving thing on the gun is the bullets themselves, which are arranged nose to tail down the entire barrel and fire electronically one at a time. Unfortunately, the cost, weight, and setup of this weapon keep it limited to a narrow range of circumstances. Number 5. The Plague Bomb. Unit 731 was a covert biological and chemical warfare research and development facility in China. The intention of the facility was to conduct military research that would hopefully benefit Japanese troops. Things they wanted to discover included how long someone could survive without food, water, or with certain diseases or illness. How could that ever turn into a fountain evil? Needless to say, as the war went on, Japan ran out of willing or simply unwitting test subjects and turned to using prisoners of war, starving them, freezing them, and giving them advanced forms of various diseases. In total, the Japanese government killed over 250,000 people, thousands of which were men, women, children, and infants who were used in vivisections, procedures that involved infecting them with a disease before performing a living autopsy of sorts to watch the patient's organs function in real time. Parts of organs such as the brain, lungs, and liver were removed from some patients, while some had their stomachs surgically removed and the esophagus reattached to the intestines. They also built plague bombs using plague-infected fleas dropped from airplanes over cities in China to study the spread. These aerial plague bombs killed tens of thousands of people with bubonic plague endemics. And at the time World War II ended, Japan was prepared to drop billions of these fleas over San Diego. Number 4. An SEQ-3 laser weapon system. This direct energy laser weapon developed by the United States Navy was first installed for testing on the USS Ponce back in 2014, where it performed exactly as the developers had wanted, taking out air and water targets in long range. This incredible weapon blasts its target with an infrared beam that uses 30,000 watts of power to fry sensors, burn out motors, or even detonate explosive materials aboard enemy ships, meaning the laser effectively turns the enemy's stockpiles against them. Number 3. Neutron bomb. Also known as enhanced radiation warhead, it is a special type of nuclear weapon that actually strives to produce a smaller initial blast while releasing massive amounts of radiation. This bomb only has a 1.2 kilogram yield, compared to the hydrogen bomb we saw earlier that packed a whopping 15 megatons. Instead, it would blanket a 1.2 mile radius with a potent wave of neutron and gamma radiation that would penetrate all living tissue, armor, dirt, and buildings, effectively destroying the environments and the lives of everyone who lives there for generations to come. It is sure a good thing those dum-dums are illegal though, right? Number 2. Electromagnetic railgun. What was just a dream for years, the railgun has long been a military goal. A railgun is faster, more durable, cheaper, and far more lethal than any conventional cannon or gun. A typical gun utilizes a propellant and a small explosion to fire a bullet, but not the railgun. A railgun uses a system of magnets that circulate around 2 rails. It takes 2 minutes to charge and a fraction of a second to fire. When it fires, it launches a single heavy slug toward a destination, much heavier than a cannonball, and moving 33% faster than any similar weaponry. When it launches, the sheer energy and speed superheats the slug, resulting in a burning mass of metal. The projectile is hot enough to melt through armor, steel, and pretty much anything else it comes into contact with. Number 1. Project Thor. This project has long been speculated and researched, and as recently as 2017, the US government has acknowledged current work on the project. Project Thor is a type of satellite or launcher vehicle that would be launched into orbit with 20-foot long by 1-foot diameter tungsten rods. The craft would then move to a position above its intended target before launching the projectiles, much like an asteroid smashing into the Earth. Each of these rods would wind up traveling at speeds over Mach 10 before they reached the Earth's surface, delivering the force of 11.5 tons of TNT. That's all for 10 most insane weapons in the world. Which weapon was your favorite? Can you think of a more insane weapon? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to Trend Joint for more incredible videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.